Feels like a very tough act to follow with these great speakers. Yeah. So I'm going to talk a slightly different tack. I'm going to introduce our fund quickly and then go into two of our portfolio companies from the DFJ network which are ready to expand into Japan. And then we'll continue the theme of this evening of some of the challenges, some of the channels, and how we get into Japan. So DFJ JAIC is part of the DFJ Global Network, and what essentially the DFJ Global Network is a collection of about 16 funds, because we believe entrepreneurship is global, and so every region of the world has entrepreneurs, and there's going to be portfolio business development. There's a lot of co-investments that are needed to make this successful. So rather than acting as a single fund that has all these different regions underneath, we have a collection of independent funds that collaborates on a lot of other activities but can make independent decisions. So DFJ JAIC, we are a US-Japan cross-border fund, and our main value add is to help our portfolio companies expand to Japan and also help with the customer development for our portfolio companies. This is just to give you a flavor with respect to the DFJ network, all the different areas, regions that we invest in, from energy generation, distribution, storage, advanced materials, and resource management. And we've had a share of the lows, the Konarkas of the world, but we've also had a share of our highs. We've got Silver Spring that just went IPO, and Tesla, which has gone IPO. So the two companies that I'm going to talk about today are QBotix, and Vasik is out here, so we can just raise your hand. Vasik, he's a CEO. This is solar powered by robotics. I'm talking about that, and I'm also going to talk about Enlighted, and there she is from Enlighted. So if you have any further detailed questions, they're both out here after the presentation. So the reason to talk about these companies is, if you saw the theme of the three presenters before me, solar, feed-in tariffs, or in terms of nuclear power plants being out of commission, solar is going to be a huge driver in Japan, and we see QBotix as positioned very well in the space. And then for energy efficiency, especially the building lighting energy efficiency and the HVAC energy efficiency, Enlighted is just positioned very well. So these are the two companies that we're going to focus on for this particular year. So to give you a sense for QBotix, this is a company that's essentially going after the huge solar market that Tony talked about, $80 billion market, of which about 25% is sort of the fixed mount, single axis, those types. So about $20 billion market. And just want to highlight, we see a lot in the last few years, people who, especially the VCs, invested a lot in modules, inverters. But if you look at where the innovation really hasn't happened is on the mounting systems and on the labor side of things. And that's exactly where QBotix is attacking. It's about 33% of this particular pie. But this is just an example of a single axis breakdown. So the conventional wisdom has been, well, we're going to track. We're going to have some cost for motors and controls. We're going to have some steel costs. Well, let's try to increase the area which is being tracked so that we can reduce the cost, have this motors and controls reduced as we go and increase the areas. Well, you just can't do that, because when you try to do that, what happens is the cost for steel goes up. And the reason is you've got to think about wind resistance as you essentially increase the number of area. So the approach that QBotix has taken is, the right kind of area is about 10 square meter, but how can we reduce both the motor costs as well as the steel costs? And a couple of insights out here that the team had. One is, well, can we the sun essentially moves 10 degrees every 40 minutes. So can we actually carry the motors around and resource share it? It's a very simple insight, very elegant. And so what what the team came up with, the QBotix team, is a nice, elegant solution of having this robot go around and track the panels. The robot is able to carry motors, has very high quality redundancy built in, and it's able to go track this. So we got, about one robot can essentially handle 1,200 solar panels or 300 kilowatts. So a very elegant solution on how to get this thing done. So the main components, I'm not going to go into detail of each of those, but the main components here are the trackers and the track itself. Again, the trackers, because now they're very light, they can be prefabricated in factory, so you can reduce the installation cost. They can take care of very high wind loads. Then you've got the robots itself. These are dust and water resistant, but because they're shared across 1,200 panels, you can put very high quality motors in terms of both reliability as well as long life. And one more, just if you go back one more.
Oh, go back?
Go back.
Sure.
So in addition to the, one more. I'm sorry. That's all right. So I have to give him the benefit of doubt with his one hand. The last point I wanted to make is, in addition to these two things, it's the intelligence that the robot has, which is in terms of the monitoring software that's there. So you're able to see exactly what was tracked, what was the timing, how much power was generated, the trends, and also the predictive diagnostics, so you can reduce the O&M costs. So it's sort of bringing intelligence into this whole steel theme that's going on. So again, a lot of numbers out here, but I think Tony hit the points during his presentation. The main point out here is that if you compare the fixed still systems, single axis tracking systems, dual axis, and the QBotix systems, we've got detailed models. Wasit can run them for you. But essentially, what you'll see is that the QBotix system has the lowest LCOE, or the levelized cost of electricity. You can take any scenario, you can take this for, whether it's California, you can take it for lower insolation regions like Japan, you will come on top in terms of the LCOE number. So this is the lowest cost system out there. So this is the overall theme. We've had innovation in modules, we've had innovations on the inverter side. This is now innovation on the steel side, making steel actually smart and intelligent. So I'm going to change tacks on this from the solar side and go on to the energy efficiency, or the building lighting management. So this is a company, Enlighted, and go ahead. So the idea here is that for every fixture, every 100 square foot, have a sensor that is able to collect some certain information. For example, how much ambient light is coming in, if it's daylight. Is there occupancy? Is there a person out there? And what is the temperature out there? So it's 3 simple sensors connected out there. And what that sensor does is essentially giving that data to the Enlighted power pack, which is then driving the ballast to control the lighting based on all those 3 inputs. So, thanks. So if you can see, what's happening out here is, as an occupant enters the space, the lights come in, come off. In the case of daylight, there is harvesting going on, and so you can, if there's a lot of light coming up from the windows, you can reduce the light inside the buildings. So we've got, essentially the idea here is to save the customers at least 70 to 80% of their costs of lighting. Now, a couple of things I didn't mention out here, there are additional services that happen. For example, once you're able to monitor the temperature, you're also able to reduce the HVAC costs. So quick last point in terms of Enlighted, these are some of the customers that we have. This is an example of LinkedIn. They deployed it at about 167,000 square foot, and in terms of savings, they've been able to achieve about 70% savings of the electricity. So that's what I had for this, and happy to now have any Q&A.